Hello, and thanks for joining me for GMT's Gallipoli 1915, Churchill's Greatest Gamble, now on to turn 8, the Cape Helles scenario. This is 6 p.m, so this is an evening, the first evening turn. This is in twilight. Now, twilight is like a day turn, except for the observation range. So, yeah, effectively you can only see adjacent. So there is, it's only close quarters for firing. Although you can still fire if spotters are fire artillery if spotters are adjacent, but it's only adjacent for vision. But other than that, it's pretty much the same as a night turn. The next turn will be a night turn, just giving you a bit of a heads up of what changes there. Firstly, it's a much longer period of time, so the next turn would be 8 p.m. to midnight, and there's a midnight to 4 p.m. night turn after that, so 2 consecutive night turns, and then another twilight turn for turn 11. Leading into next day. Main differences really. So at night you can only got observation into the same hex, so you can't actually see out of your own hex. This leads to a few things. It's very much easier to do engineering works. There is also a couple of extra things that happen. First is that there is an officer point bonus you get, which I believe on the reinforcement booklet says it is 1.5 officer points per battalion. Led me to find out something I've been playing slightly wrong. I'm sure there's more than just this, but with the officer points coming back in defence, the officer point markers have been rising slowly, one at a time, one officer point at a time. Actually, when they're in disorganised defence, you only get half a point. So how do you mark half a point? What actually happens is you roll the percentile dice and see if you get a point or not. And so within this 1.5 officer point per battalion bonus you get in the next twilight turn, again you get one, and then you get a dice roll to see if you get another, to see if you get a second. So that's what happens there. The other thing is there are such things called illuminated zones. So if you can imagine, there's the Royal Navy happily running around the outside of this this peninsula, and there is a pre-dreadnought battleship, an old battleship, and a destroyer assigned, and they've got searchlights on them, and you can actually pick a group of 3 hexes in which to illuminate, and effectively in those 3 hexes it's pretty much daylight. So it just counteracts the observation range for the night turn while those searchlight groups are on. Not only that, but if there is movement through those zones, those ships get to fire, and this is addition to the normal sort of pick-a-chet kind of naval gunfire thing. So this is a particular thing here. So I'm not sure how devastating those will be, but only, of course, the British side get it, the Turks don't get it. But I suppose there might be a lot of hiding anyway if caught in a searchlight zone as a static unit, and just avoid them when moving. So I think they'll be useful to just keep the Turks honest, I think, from sort of infiltration and stuff. But I don't know. When we'll get there, we'll see. So that's what the night turns will do, but we're still on twilight here, so it's a 1 hex observation range, but other than that it's a normal day turn. One thing I missed off from doing in the in the last turn was our British Ross and Cromarty artillery battery should have landed into the W stack, W beach hex, so that it could then start being used. We did roll the coastal defence fire. I just didn't move it in when the bridgeman acted, so I've just put that on there. And there is, for this turn, there is another artillery battery. This is the Argyllshire artillery battery, or one step of the Argyllshires. So we will put that on as well. And yeah, that's I think all that's coming in. Just so you know, there is some more artillery to come in for the British. However, with the exception of one artillery, an artillery battalion, I think, rather than just a battery, for the Turks, they don't really get anything until the night after next. So what they've got on the board will be it. Now, I've just been considering that and thinking, well, I'm setting up for the attack up on White Beach here with the 25th Regiment, and thinking, well, if that goes badly wrong, there's not that much left to stop the British. So I'm kind of reconsidering that attack, and maybe we should change orders. I think it's okay for the moment now, but there is something to be said to get those units moved down into this sort of area to try and restrict the British from getting further up the peninsula. The actual victory conditions, I won't go into them in any detail, but effectively there's a kind of a line that goes up the peninsula, which is for Turkish victory going up to British victory, and effectively a big British victory is pretty much blowing all the way through Carinthia and keep going if you blow a big hole. So it is in the Turks' interest to actually try and bottle the British up, and what we do about White Beach, I don't know. It might be worth just stationing an artillery unit up there with some cover and just continue to plaster them until they might be persuaded to leave. Also, the other thing I was considering down here on S Beach is an embarkation. So that's to get back on the boats and leave. To do that, you need to actually have a regroup action. So you have to actually do an order for regroup, and the regroup is basically just get back on the boats. And you do get coastal defence artillery fire on the way back out. Lovely. So again, that's something to consider. And interestingly enough, okay, now we're in twilight. The artillery can't really see that beach anymore because there's no local spotters. So it could do it with some immunity, and would continue to do that up until sort of the first morning turn, which is turn 12, I think. Up until that point, we can consider regrouping and removing the two units here, which are just there. The two 87 Brigade units here, which is a machine gun and a company. There's really not much there. So, but I don't know. It may be worth seeing overnight how far this moves here. The other thing here is to wonder how long we stick with the pickets here. We have picket here and here on a hillside in a fire trench with barbed wire, all well and good. And this guy here, he's not on a hill, but equally well covered. But the British are starting to get their act together, so how long they'd actually survive for, I'm not sure on their own. We have the remaining company here as well. What we can do is we can rout the pickets and get them to withdraw. They effectively come off the board, but you preserve them for use elsewhere. But whether they should just stick it out and stand and die kind of idea. I don't know, but I suspect that certainly X Beach maybe it's still in its initial attack orders, but it's just completed those by occupying these two hexes here from the beach. So it's completed order, so it gets a bonus on getting its next order. And I'm thinking of maybe in the twilight it might be worth maybe rushing across here to try and isolate the peninsula, and that might be useful. The alternative is to just hang back and then get the 87 Brigade to take over, and then form up something for the morning. So there's quite a bit to think about really in this turn. I don't expect the dynamic movement to occur now, and it's going to be pretty much static throughout the night. So for those watching, apologies about the lack of movement, but it's World War One, and not only that, it's a chaotic amphibious invasion. So you're not going to get a lot, but maybe it should start to loosen up. Still, anyway, just having a chat about the whole thing. Need to get on with the turn really. There'll be a lot less firing now, anyway, but we can still do our standard placing of reinforcements, and also naval fire check, etc. And do all that, and then look at the officer points as usual. Right, first thing is to pick the naval gunfire check. It's going to be less useful now, I think, but let's see what we get. We get a commanded fire, so the Navy wakes up just as the light is fading. That'll be interesting. And then we've got the artillery landing here, which we'll roll for coastal defence fire. Although actually there isn't a spotter near there, and so I suppose there isn't for this turn, as in the artillery can't see it. There isn't a spotter adjacent, so I don't suppose there is any coastal defence fire. So I think we actually we actually just skip that. So that's the reinforcements done, and then we're over to officer points. Just an interesting thing, again, mistake of mine, but it's interesting to note, is that I've been playing that the brigade HQ for the British have their HQ greater than 15 hexes away, so they get a negative modifier on their officer points. That's fine. It's just I was assuming that the Turks didn't suffer that. However, the setup has the 9th Division HQ for the Ottomans up on the other side of the peninsula, on the inside of the peninsula, so down this coastline here. However, it's kind of way up there off the board, miles onto the next map. So also the Turks should actually be suffering that as well. And interestingly enough, just looking at the reinforcement schedule, it never turns up, so it always sits up there. So the Turks should always actually suffer from this this negative as well. But just an extra thing to add there. But let's go and have a look at the officer points. Okay, so just looking at the command phase, isolated unit segment, everything's within messaging range as far as I can tell. So there's no need to mark anything for that. We're not going to adjust any formations just yet. I think we'll do that in the night turns. Adjust officer points. So like I said, I'm going to run with the rule I discovered about disorganised defence here. But just looking at the British here. So X Beach will not gain any officer points because it's still on initial attack. The 88th Brigade, again, likewise won't. The 25th Regiment already has maximum anyway. I should put it on the defence, because it's until the morning on its attack orders, it's not actually attacking, it's actually on the defence order. Anyway, so Y Beach on proper defence should be able to gain an officer point, but actually it can't because it's actually still above its half rating of 3. So without a regroup, it can't get any officer points back. V Beach is, I think, is able to, because the V Beach half is on 4, and yeah, it's as it's on defence, it should get 1 back. It's not on disorganised defence, so it should get it. So, but that's about as much as V Beach can get without an officer. A regroup activity as well. Up here, 87th, 88th Brigade, they're on disorganised defence. I have been moving them up automatically, so what I might do is just sort of halve the difference and just say, well, let's reduce them to 1 point, so as if I rolled well on one dice and badly on the other, and then we'll roll for this turn as well. So for 87 Brigade, let's roll the percentiles. On a 20 they do go up, and on the 86th Brigade, on the 74 they don't. So reds go up, greens stay as they are, and that's being a bit fair enough, really. W Beach here, again, we're disorganised, so I will roll 50-50 for them. 76 they don't go up, and S Beach, which is this FC Alpha chip, which is on 0 at the moment, we will. They are still disorganised, so we will roll for them as well. The 67 says no as well. So that's officer points for the British. For the Turks, we still have the 26th Regiment here, which is 2 officer points down because it lost a step, it lost a company. But on defence, it should regain 1. So, hold on, but it can't regain 1 until it's gone to half level, and average level is 6. So it's not going to get any back until it's below 6. And will only ever get above 6 again with the regroup action. So that's the adjusting the officer points, and it's orders continuation now as well. There isn't actually anything for Twilight that affects the orders. However, Night does if you're attacking, if you want to change to an attack, but other than that, there doesn't seem to be anything for continuation that I can see. So we will look at X Beach and run down from there. X Beach on initial attack. X Beach is actually on this chart here, and continuation for X is a 50. So it's +5 from a flying column, and I think that's just the modifier. So on an 87, it fails its initial attack finally. So therefore, it is going to move to a stalled attack, and yeah, that's going to affect things. I'm not sure. We're in a stalled attack. We're not allowed to actually have any orders issued, new orders, during the period that it's in a stalled attack, which is a turn. So that's kind of scuppered X Beach actually doing anything particularly clever now. 88th Brigade, which here for a continuation is a 67. Now we have the +10 on the dice for the HQ distance, but I think that's all that we need to have on there. So We do have a 79 though, so that is a failure, and they will move to stalled attack as well. Well, so we've got one turn for 88th Brigade to finally clear out the fort number 1, I think it is, just up the hill from V Beach, Hill 141, sorry, it's called. So they've got a turn to do that with their stalled attack, otherwise they're going to be stuck. Right, next we're on defence with Y Beach. So Y Beach up here on a defence order, and we're on a 56 for that. Yeah, and yeah, let's roll for that. 6 and yeah, just the +5 as usual. At 27, they're okay on defence. And as you can see, that some of these orders can be quite precarious to continue with these beach HQs. They haven't really got very good continuation numbers here. So that's an interesting thing. Maybe we should get them off into the proper brigades as quickly as possible. V Beach. V Beach is an 88 though. That's pretty good. Again, +5 for flying column. A 64, they're happy. The Turkish 25th Regiment, they're on defence. They don't need to roll from where they are. They don't have a red value here. 26th Regiment, likewise, no red value to worry about. And we're back to the disorganised defence orders for S Beach, W Beach, and 86th, 87th Brigade. They can't fail, so we don't roll for that. So, right, next on to change order segment. So we can't change the orders of 88th Brigade and X Beach, they're in stalled attack. We just have the others to deal with here. Turks aren't going to change anything for the moment. Have to look at the beaches to see what we can do. Particularly thinking about V Beach, if we can get it to do just a twilight attack up here, take that into try and widen out the breach at V Beach over to towards the other hill, and really get the pickets away from the beach. We might want to try and do that. Y Beach, I'm kind of happy with them on defence. Actually, they're in the middle of their order. They'll continue consolidating around the beach, which they need to do. And these guys, we should roll for them to see if we can get them into defence orders as well. We'll do that. So I'll go through that and I'll give you the results. So the change order segment, we're looking to change orders on these three HQs. We can't deal with these. Defence is good for Y Beach. 25th Regiment is on defence, preparing for an attack anyway. 26th stays on cordon, and we're not really doing anything with 86th or 87th Brigade quite yet. I think we're going to start getting the consolidation working overnight. Yeah, these three are what we're going to try and do. V Beach, I'm going to try and get that into an attack, which will attack across towards the fort number 1, that area, to try and link up with W Beach. W Beach try and get out of disorganised into defence, so therefore we could possibly do a night attack to free to get out again of their beach area and link up with V Beach. Now they've linked up with X Beach, and the S Beach guys, we need to put them into regroup so that they can then do the withdrawal next turn, and get off the get back onto the ships and ship them round to where X Beach is, where the rest of 87 Brigade is, and get them doing that. Hopefully with a regroup we might be able to get some of the lost companies back as well. So that's what we're going to try and do, and let's calculate each one. There's the numbers calculated. The V Beach roll for 17. It doesn't have a huge amount of chance, and it's also trying to go from defence to attack, so that's a -10 as well. So yeah, we're on, well, it's a +10 which to the dice roll, which is effectively -10 to the number. So on a 17, there's not a lot of chance, but let's roll it. 57, nope, that didn't work. With S Beach, we got a 35 there. They're on 0 officer points, and they've got a very small chance of, it's only on a 10. However, they're trying to do a regroup, which is actually -30 on the dice, so it could be a +30 to the number. So we're on 35 for them. They've probably got the best chance, even though they're in a hell of a mess. 12 is a success, so FC Alpha get to do the regroup. And finally we have W Beach, which is just trying to get to defence. Here it needs a 31. Again, there's a penalty. Actually, there's a bonus there, but they're fairly low on their number to start off with, and they ended up on a 31. 59, no chance, so stuck there. And that's really bad, because W Beach is possibly the success story, maybe with X Beach, of the landing, but they really just can't get themselves organised to do anything. They're still kind of stuck there at the tip of the peninsula. But anyway, we have S Beach where we need them, which allows the withdrawal to take place, and yeah, other than that, we're as we were. So the only thing left is to load the cup and get on with the activations. So let's roll for initiative. -1 on the dice for the Turks, of course. It's a British win, 7 to modified 6. So we will see if they get to pick. And yeah, they get to pick on a roll of 0. So I think the first one they'd want to pick would be 88th Brigade, which is the most critical one. If we can get the Worcesters to get up here and get rid of that picket, then we'll get a hell of a lot of pressure released on V Beach, and we're only really left with these 2 pickets to deal with. So I think, yeah, we'll go with 88th Brigade. We'll fish their command marker out here. Right, so we'll do commanded fire first. This will be 2 points from that hex side. We actually have units in support here as well. However, as they're in support, they can't actually fire yet. They're waiting to be committed. But we do have good old River Clyde machine guns here. So 2 points from here, and the River Clyde machine guns is 3. Just 1 point has got to commanded fire here is that I drew out a naval chit for this turn. Actually, you don't draw naval chits for twilight and night turns. It's only daylight turns, so we just ignore the naval chit I pulled, even though it was commanded fire. Right, so yeah, so we've got that's 5 points into this hex here, which of course has its standard +4 defence for the fire trench, and it's also upwards fire, which is an extra +1, so +5 in defence. So let's roll that. And that's a 37 on a 4, so the 4 comes up to 9. I suspect we've got a morale check only on that. 5 points. Yeah, 9 is only .18, so 37 will be a morale check. The morale check, however, is a 0.3, so no effect with that commanded fire. So then we just need to move on with the actual move and assault. So the Worcesters here will be moving straight up the hill as per their orders, and will be suffering with the fire coming down on them, and the artillery should, well, so we've got an option here. So the picket can order the fire to happen as the Worcesters exit this hex, or while they're in this hex closing. If they wait here, then the artillery can't be used, because they won't fire into the same hex as their own troops. And the picket itself, even though it will be doubled, won't be anything like the artillery fire that's likely to come in. So, the opportunity fire will be done in this hex, and yeah, we'll get that organised. Right. So we've done the calculation. So as it's in this hex, the barbed wire doesn't actually count yet, but we have 4 firepower factors coming in from this battery here, split battery here, and so that gives us 4 points in attack. There is -3 for moving. There is +2 for twilight, +2 for the town, and then there's also a +6 for range. So it actually comes out as a +7. So it's not really that good an attack on the green die. But anyway, we're up on the 4 chart, which is much better than being on the half chart. Yeah, so that's what we're rolling on. We're rolling on the 4. Okay, we got a very low roll. So we've got a 6, which going up to a +7 is a 13 on 4. A 13 on 4 is 0.08. However, we rolled a 0.3 here. So that is actually a casualty. And the morale check is a 70. So, yeah, so we do lose 1 company. And the morale check, let me just check on that. Okay, for the morale check, it's a +5 for twilight. So the roll is actually 75, which exceeds the 70 of the Worcester's remaining company there, or reduced half battalion. So they are confused, but they do get into the hex. They will be halved, so it's not going to be a massive combat here, really. There's a loss here, so that's 2 officer points down for 88th Brigade, which puts them down on 1. So this was a stall attack anyway, and that's it's going to be disorganised defence after that. But this is a final push to get rid of that picket. So we go to the assault. Right, that comes out with modifiers as a plus. Is a 0.25 attack against a 0.75 defence, because of the fire trench, of course, and so the defender loses on a 14 or less, attacker on a 12 or more. So this is not going to be very pretty for the British, I suspect. But let's roll the dice and see what happens. We've got a 76, so that is loss of the Worcesters. So that's another casualty, and kind of puts pay to 188 Brigade can do. It's down to 0 officer points now, and it's kind of shot its bolt, and it may be that that whole area is stuck for the night. Yeah, so, well, it was worth a try, but obviously that didn't work, even with the cover of twilight. So that's 88th Brigade done, and quite well done, in fact. Right, so that's that one done. So we're back to the initiative. Rolled a 00, but it's -1 on the Turks. So the Turks get the activation. They roll a 3, which does allow them to pick. So I think it'll be certainly the 26th Regiment that will do some firing. That's the priority here. What I'm also looking at doing with that is to withdraw this battalion back here, because I think it's going to be overwhelmed with the amount of fire coming in from here. We have machine guns, and we can get crossfire, etc. I think appearing very shortly. So yeah, I think it's time for him to withdraw. I also think that the pom-pom gun should probably withdraw as well, back to back up the road to get some clear space between them and the British. The rest will be firing. So again, some artillery fire to come down on the beaches, and that'll be about it. Right, so due to the twilight, there's a lot of restriction on the fire this turn, so we're just pulling fire down on the beach here and here, and then also into this hex here. Not firing the pom-pom gun because I wanted to move. It's mostly artillery, of course, and yeah, it's just these particular combats. So we'll run from V Beach onwards. Now the V Beach is now, it's got a lot of troops on it, but most of them are still in River Clyde rather than actually on the beach itself, and so there's not much of a density modifier like there used to be, and also they're in the fire trenches as well. So anyway, we'll look at this one. So it's 4.5. That's actually a 10, a +10. So I didn't have a 0 counter, so use that instead. So looking at this is a 14 on 4.5, which is a .08, and a 73 does absolutely nothing. Up near W Beach, we've got the 6 factor, so we're firing the big artillery at the back there. So that's 6 points, but it's a +11. That's a 0, so it comes out as an 11, but it's a 98 on the percentile, so no effect there. And finally here we've got 1 on the +2 being for the twilight. So quite a low roll. It's a 1, +2 is a 3, a 3 on 1 comes out as a .08. This is a 17. So it's not a loss, it's a morale check, but the morale check is a 0.2, so no effect there. So that's it for the commanded fire. So clearing that away, the only movement I'm going to do, I'm not going to withdraw this guy yet, because he will be fired upon in twilight. We can do that at night. Also, it's worth keeping these guys a bit honest. But we will move the pom-pom gun, and it will need to limber up. Now, I've just thought, the coastal defence units are artillery lacking transport. Now, this is coastal defence, but it's not actually a coastal defence unit, it's just an artillery unit. So I'm kind of presuming on the pom-pom gun that it should be able to move. So we will limber it up, and then move. Just zooming out here, we'll just look at where we're going to place it. I'm thinking possibly this spot here is pretty good, as a field of fire down here. gets us to just about X Beach and across. So there's a little bit of a shadow here from this hill here, but I think it's nice and safe. I think that's probably the best place for it. So yeah, so we'll get that moved. It won't be able to get there all this turn. It's 4 to limber up, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it gets to there, and that's really 26th 26th Regiment's activation at this point. Okay, so let's move on to the next activation. The initiative roll is for the Allies, and the Allies do get to pick again. Not sure it's that relevant which one it should be. The only other unit that's doing anything significant is X Beach in its stalled attack. It's completed its orders, so other than doing some firing, it's not going to really be doing very much. So yeah, we'll do that combat there, which is here, of course, where we have 2 points firing, and it's +2 because of the twilight for the roll, commanded fire, and that's a very big roll. That's going to get nowhere near anything, and X Beach is kind of done. I don't think we need to move any more. Just wondering whether we should move the machine gun out of the beach area, but I don't think that's really necessary. It's not going to do very much, so I'm just going to leave it. So that's that activation. Roll for initiative again, and it's the Allies again, but it's a random pick. Again, I think at this point it's not. That's sorry, it was X Beach I was picking last time. Apologies about that. Who else is going to come? We've got V Beach here. So V Beach, we do have some fire opportunities into this hex. We've already fired up here with River Clyde, so it's probably a good idea to fire this way to get the machine guns. Yeah. So that will be 5 factors. That's 2 the limit of rifle fire that can go to a hex side, plus the 3 MGs from the River Clyde is 5 into there, which is on defence will be a +4, and then add twilight, that's a +6. Relatively low roll. Well, actually not on the green dice. Green dice, it's going to be, well, yeah, it's not going to be a hit, but on an 18, it's going to be a morale check. But the morale check 49 isn't going to worry the picket, so no effect, I'm afraid. And I think with the 1 remaining rifle point here, which wasn't contributing, we might as well fire him up onto the hill. You never know. And that will be a +7 in defence. So 1 with a +7. Again, oh, actually, it's +7 makes it a 10 on the 1 chart, which is a 0.03. We've got a 23, so it is a morale check. Now the morale check roll is an 81 here, and on the black and grey dice. Now 81 is greater than the 75. However, there are some modifiers, I think, which will probably apply for the fire trench. I think it's something like a +10. Let me just check that. Right, so it's so there's a -10 on the dice, which an 81 tends to a 71. However, there is +5 for twilight, so that does push it over, and so it is confused. Great, but I'm not sure it's going to be a big deal. But there we go. What might happen is that confusion will last until next turn. when it can rally to remove that. However, if V Beach or 88th Brigade gets to fire beforehand, if you get another confused result, it will rout. So it's got a small effect there, but that's it. And that's V Beach there. So we're left with. So I didn't put out the 26th Regiment for the Turks here. So we're left with S and Y Beaches and the 25th Regiment for the Turks. So let's roll for more activations. It's the Turks this time. It's 25th Regiment. They can't really fire. They can't see anything anymore. And they're happy where they are. So they're not actually going to be doing anything for this activation. And let's just see with the last two British, it's a random pick. And we've got S Beach. Now S Beach is on regroup. So let's look at what happens there. Right, with the regroup order, you check to see if it's actually in regroup, and that means that the units are on their objective. So they are, because they're in the same hex, and that's the point where they would be regrouping. So they are in regroup. What we'll do is actually not very much now, but in the next adjust officer point segment, we check to see about recoverable losses, and this is where some units may come back, we'll have, of course, a slightly better officer point regeneration as well for there. But the idea is to pull these guys off here and then send them around here to join 87th Brigade. And so just making a note at the moment that they are in regroup, so therefore next turn at night they can begin the withdrawal, which is actually a game rule as opposed to the series rule for Gallipoli. That's S Beach, and then Y Beach. We do actually have some movement on Y Beach because they are relocating to protect the beach itself, because they can see the Turks are massing. So just looking at here, we're attempting to get units across here. Now it's twilight, nobody can see them, so therefore if I just zoom out to include the Y Beach box, they no longer have to keep hiding. That's not necessary anymore. And so we're going to be moving the Plymouth battalion unit out here with the PL I've written here, so they can move to their objective, and we'll do that. Here we will have the KOSB, I think. Let me just check what that reads. I think it's C and D, which is these two units, and everybody else is back in the hex. So we'll withdraw the B KOSB up to Y Beach. We will have the machine gun, I think, possibly stay here, I think, with A and B. C and D here. A and B are back here, and the D company of the South Wales borderers is sitting in that hex as well, and that's where we need to get to. There's no interference from opportunity fire, and we're done. I think what will happen at night is they'll start digging and to put rifle pits in for those hexes. Okay, that's all the activations. So that's the turn 8. So of necessity, quite a quiet turn, but there were some changes to the orders. The 88th Brigade wasn't able to clear the hill Hill 141 here, although some fire did end up confusing the unit, so that's still there. And we've moved the pom-pom gun up or back, I suppose. And Y Beach is properly organised now, and is cover. We've got cover across the ravine, which is very good, and each hex is quite solid. Yeah, that's about it for the turn. Slightly more activity, but of necessity the firing was a lot less. It'll be even less next turn on night, because you have to be in the same hex to actually be able to see the opposition. But the second turn of night will have illuminated zones, so that'll be interesting for turn 10. As they're going to be quite quick, I'm guessing here, if the two night turns are quite quick, might combine them into one video. But we do have probably a bit more to do on the officer track rather than the status displays and order track, other than actually on the board. But we'll play it by ear. Anyway, thanks for watching for yet another turn. I've had a bit of feedback that people are getting some utility out of these videos, learning the system in a slightly simpler way. So thanks for the comments and for the encouragement, and we'll keep going with this. I've just noted another mistake I've done while going through this turn, which is that the coastal defence units actually don't suffer from the observed fire penalty. That's the extra +2 for indirect fire. They don't actually suffer that, which I have been added, but I didn't add this turn when I discovered it. So yeah, little things like these I'm picking up slowly but surely, and yeah, hopefully it kind of illustrates all the rules. Eventually I might get to a rule set in utility that actually represent the rules as is, rather than my reading and my sort of imperfect memory and understanding. Still, thanks for watching, and I'll see you for the night turn, which is 8 PM to midnight, turn 9. Hope to see you there. Bye for now.